Starting a business is not for the faint of heart. Join us on this journey as we grow our salsa business. I am Gabriel, and this is a series I wish existed when we first decided to start Miss Judy Salsa. No fake story, no sugarcoating, just real talk about what it takes to go from a family recipe to put in a jar in people's hands. So I'll give you a little bit of context about where I'm coming from. I am from Mexico City and I come from a long line of cooks. Food in my family was everything. It was an excuse to get together, a bunch of people screaming over one another. You had to really fight for attention. But the one thing that always brought us together was food. So 15 years ago, I go over to my mom's house and she says, yo, taste this salsa. And of course I did. And instantly it was like a eureka moment. I knew that this was lightning in a bottle. This was something unique in a world that's saturated with salsas. And that never really went away. Over the course of the next, 10, 12, 13 years, I kept thinking back to that salsa. From time to time, I would talk to my mom about it, but I continued living my life. My first career was in social work. My second career was in the world of education, where I had been for over 20 years. And fast forward to a few years ago, I'm at school and we're just talking with some coworkers. And knowing me, I'm probably talking trash because salsa comes up and I say something along the lines of, oh, you haven't tasted good salsa. Don't sweat it. I'm going to bring some salsa in later this week and then you'll know. So fast forward, I make the salsa and I bring it to school. I leave it in, what's effectively like the teacher's lounge, right? And I go to my part of the school and I continue living my life. At some point, having forgotten about this salsa, I go back to that part of the school and there's like a little crowd in the room. I've completely forgotten about what's going on. And I'm like, yo, what's happening? And it was overwhelming. The people are like, yo, this salsa is delicious. Can I buy it from you? They want the whole history. And truth be told, I probably sort of zoned out just because it was pretty overwhelming. And then entered a period that I really wasn't expecting. People were clearly excited about the salsa. They wanted to buy it. I knew nothing, absolutely nothing about selling our salsa. And as time went on, I discovered that my big problem was that I didn't like the idea of selling something so personal, you know. I talked to my mom, I talked to Miss Judy, I shared the whole story. And of course, she was like, yo, move forward, sell it. She was super supportive. She's always been supportive. I love Miss Judy. She's my queen and she's awesome. But I really struggled with it. For me, culture is, you know, vital. It's at the core of who I am as a person. And so the idea of a hockey my family's recipe was it just didn't sit well with me. And it took me quite some time to finally get over that, actually a couple of years. So fast forward to living in New England, and through a series of just life events, we decided to really give this a go. So what does it mean to actually give it a go? That's what this series is about. My goal is to show you exactly what our process was, everything from the permits to the labels to barcodes to farmers markets. How do you price your product? How do you look at the marketplace and think about things like scaling, right? We're going to talk about how do you brand, especially when you're on a budget, right? How do you price your product where you're making enough to invest back into your business, you're paying yourself, and you're not leaving money on the table? If you are, how intentional are you being and what are your reasons behind that? I have very strong opinions about that because of the way that I grew up. So hopefully as the series goes on, you'll remember what I just said in the last 10 seconds and it'll make a lot more sense. We're going to share our mistakes. We've made a ton of mistakes because it's not easy. It really isn't. We're going to talk about the wins as well. There's so much joy with what we've experienced, and we want others to have that opportunity as well. And so that's what this series is about. In the next episode, we're going to get into something that we didn't really encounter when we were first considering going on this journey, and that is your salsa good enough to bring to market? I'm going to give you a real framework for how to go about exploring this topic without spending a single dollar on permitting or on labels or anything else other than your salsa. So if you're starting a salsa business or are thinking about it, hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell to be notified when new videos drop, and engage, ask questions. This is a journey where we're going to learn together. I am Gabriel, and this is Miss Judy Salsa. Let's get it.